Greetings again, friends. Well, let me tell you, if you're paying attention to anything now, you know that we are headed in our second round of lockdown. Now, depending on what happens with this election and depending on who is in charge and how strong they want to be, it could get worse. But if you have any sense, you will know that what is happening is this is about something more than just safety. Now, I've done videos about safety, written about safety, and a lot of what is being promoted is not about safety. It's about something more than safety. A lot of what you're seeing is the hypocrisy of people in charge. You're seeing the hypocrisy of governors and senators and people in government who tell you to do something and then practice something different themselves. You even see, for instance, like I saw when Joe Biden was claiming to be the president-elect, and the media went along with this and promoted him as such. But when he was proclaiming that, he was having trouble keeping his mask up or whatever. He took it down. Then he went around with it for a while without it, and then he felt the pressure of everybody else having one. Then he put it back on real quick, and then he played with it and messed with it, and then he took it off toward the. So it was just very interesting to see. But the fact is that what is happening with these mask mandates and what they want to try to say that the whole country needs a mask mandate, when the science doesn't show that it stops the coronavirus, what they are trying to do is do more and more things to restrict and to control. Now, if you know anything about life, and I trust you do as you're thinking with me here, you know that what I learned and wrote about way back in 2008 is the same thing that happens today, that has happened all through history, and that is that it is all about control. Well, let me just go and read this article that I wrote when I understood this to a greater degree and thought it through and read about it more, going through the tragedy that I did and seeing how different people in positions of power and influence acted. Then I began to see and recognize even more, along with what I knew as the spiritual authorities and involvement behind things, both good and bad. I recognize that it's all about control. So I just want to read this for you. This is when I first started, not long after I first started my website in blog articles that I was writing in 2008. And this one was on 5/1/2008, and it's called "It Is All About Control." Every situation you are in, every problem in life, every tragedy you face is all about control. It is about who or what is in control of how things will affect you, and about whether you will be in control or yield to outside forces. Having control of something means you can manage it in the way you want. Just as has been noted in previous blogs that I had written, we know that there are many things in life that we cannot control. Take, for instance, the tragedy of tornadoes that impact many people, especially during the transition of seasonal changes. People in southeastern Virginia know firsthand about this from the recent devastation of tornadoes that blew through there this past Monday. And that was, of course, in the spring when a lot more happened with storms. And we know this from all of the storms that impact with hurricanes, and this season being a pretty big season itself with storms. So you can't control some things. Now, Christians believe, as do people of other faiths, that God is sovereign or in ultimate control over everything. Sickness and problems and tragedies happen all throughout life. So the tendency is to question whether God is really powerful enough to be in control, since He is a God of love and compassion. Now, many seek to resolve this understanding. They seek to resolve this by resorting to a deist philosophy that says He is just, but must not be. He just must just not be involved in His creation. Now, see, deism is that way. It believes that God exists and He's the creator, but He's just letting it go, and so they say that explains why you have problems and things on the earth. Because if He was really that good, He wouldn't let sickness happen. He wouldn't have let this coronavirus happen. He wouldn't let all this other stuff happen, death and disease and natural disasters and tragedies and things. But that is a misunderstanding of His overall plan and purpose. So deism, or a deist type philosophy, is what I say here and what I'm talking about. Others seek to elevate the power of evil or even change their understanding of God by saying that He doesn't know certain things that have happened yet in time, a view that is becoming more popular, often called open theism or process theology. Now, you can study that more if you want, but it basically believes that God is not omniscient. So you would say God is holy, He is love, yet there is sin and there is evil. So some try to reason and say, well, if God is love and He allows evil, then He must not be all-powerful. Or perhaps if you don't say that, then you say, well, He's all-powerful, but He must not be all-knowing. But the Bible teaches both, and so you have to see the big picture to understand that. But as I say here, God, however, is a God who is outside of time. He is the one who created time. And He is a God who is a God of action. And I said, see my previous blog. I had written From Compassion to Action. Jesus said when confronted by the religious leaders and His own people that His Father was still working and He was working. That's in John 5:16-18. God works, and He also allows the effects of sin that came into the world. And that, of course, we know first from Genesis chapter 3. And from a verse like Romans 5:12, which summarizes that, because we know that for by one man sin entered into this world, and death through sin, because of that sin. And so death passes upon all men because all sin. So Romans 5:12 there teaches that there is a problem that came because of sin in man that then passed on to all of the people born after. And we know that was in the context talking about Adam, and he's the one man that God held responsible, the first man created, and of course he disobeyed when he went along with his wife who had been deceived, and then he chose her over God, another subject that I could talk about a lot, but he chose the woman over God, and therefore he ended up causing the judgment of God. Sin entered into him because of his disobedience, and then it now passes on to their offspring and all the human beings since. But that can get into even more. But as I say here, that is part of God's plan of how He allows it to continue for a time until Jesus returns to the earth and eventually makes all things new. Even Satan is allowed to do some things. And I say, see Job. Though this fallen angel, Lucifer, who became Satan, still has to report to God before doing anything. And if you look in Job chapter 1 and 2, you see how there was a time where Satan did have to go and give an account before God as to what he was doing and what was going on in the earth. And so then God got into the discussion with Satan about Job, and considering his allegiance to God. And so Satan questioned that, and then it led to the devil being able to do what he did to Job and affect him in so many tremendous ways. And so you see all of that if you look in the Bible book of Job, and it's amazing. So God does let some people go through some things for his glory because he knows the person, and he would even challenge the devil that that person is a good person who is following him, who is righteous before him, and that they're loyal to him. And Job proved that he was, even though he didn't quite make it through completely holy and pure. God questioned him, which, by the way, Job chapters 38 to 41 are a great place to go. It's the longest portion in the Bible of direct record of God in Job 38 to 41. But you can look at Job if you want to see more how Satan is involved in the creation. He's not this person that's out of control, all powerful, or that's in so much control that God can't do anything. Because the devil can't do anything to you or me without it going through the hand of God. So remember that. Now, as I say here, Satan he's the god of this world, as 2 Corinthians 4:4 says, and there it says he's blinded the minds of those who don't believe, lest the light of the glorious gospel of God should shine unto them. So Satan does, because of being the god of this world and being in control of so many people in the world in positions of power too, he does maintain a limited control. Now, getting back to this issue more of control personally with you, I ask, well, maybe your parents control you. Maybe it is your spouse. Maybe your boss controls you. Maybe it is your house. A little rhyme there. Maybe it is some form of governmental position that is impacting your life. Decisions that the government is making, aren't they controlling you? Controlling where you can go, when you can go out? I mean, the restrictions that some governors have tried to say that the people can't even go outside their house. Like in Utah recently, of what they're saying even there, and in many states that you can't go out, you can't travel for Thanksgiving, you can't do anything because this coronavirus is so bad. Well, that's not true. It's bad, but it's not that bad. And just be careful, because it's all about control. Well, don't let the government control you either. Respect authority, but don't let them control you. It could be the government that controls, as I say here. Whatever you allow to control you will, if that is your own thinking or waves of emotion. Now, whatever you allow to control you will control you if it is your own thinking or waves of emotion. So it is a choice that you make to what you allow to control you, with all those things that I mentioned here. Now I say, if we learn the lessons from the tragedies that God allows in this fallen world, then we will recognize that we are at the mercies of this holy and loving God. We must yield to Him and fear Him above all. And that's the number one lesson of all lessons, as I mentioned the top 10 in my book. Sung-Hui Cho, he is the one who committed that murder and tragedy at Virginia Tech, shooting 32 people and then taking his own life. Sung-Hui Cho did not learn this lesson. Instead, he sought to control things and himself, and he sought to control the things on his own, and then he acted out in the terrible violence toward those around him. We must learn the lessons about control. We must respect the authorities God has established. I said take another look at the top 10 lessons that I have on my website if you want to think about these things further and look up the scriptures with those. And that is on my website, which is www.thought-provoking.com. And you can see the things I've written there too, and some of those I bring into these videos as well. I say, dear reader, will you yield yourself to the one who is in ultimate control? The Bible says in Philippians 2:10 and 11, where it says there, that one day everyone will willingly yield their will when faith becomes sight. And they will, because it says every knee will bow and every tongue will confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. So that will happen. And as I say here, why not do that today so you can stop struggling against what you cannot control? No, so you will bow one day. It will either be then when faith becomes sight, or it will be, as I said here, that one day everyone will willingly yield their will when faith becomes sight. It'll either be then, or it can be now, where you could enjoy those blessings and stop struggling. And I said you could also check out Romans 6:13 to 16, where it talks about who you choose to yield your members. That's who you are going to obey, whether it's choosing to yield to your flesh, to what is carnal, or choosing to yield to the Spirit. So that chapter in Romans 6, particularly those verses 13 to 16, are good there too. So like this video, share it with other people, subscribe to my channel, and don't let anyone control you except God, because it is all about control. It's either God, it's the devil, it's you, it's the things around you, it's other people. Something is going to control you. So share this with other people, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell for my next video.